Okay, welcome to the Freedom Hustles podcast. My name is John Banks from sideincommand.com, and I'm with Andy Lehman from freedomskillsacademy.com. So this is episode 6, I believe now, isn't it?
Yep.
So what we're going to be talking about today?
Basically, we're going to be talking about things that people can create or products, because one of the first things that people who want to get into the online business or basically want to create a passive income online, they don't know where to start, they don't know what to do. So we're going to talk about product creation, the things that they can create. Product creation, the first place to start, really.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's really important, isn't it? I think, like you just mentioned then, if for people that are kind of looking to get into the sort of online world, if you like, I guess really, I know there is the affiliate angle. I mean, you can start promoting other people's products. That's kind of an okay way to start, but I think you get a little bit more sort of authority and a bit more kind of traction if you actually have your own products. And that doesn't need to be, full on massive, $1,000 courses or anything like that.
No.
It can just be something, we talked about the other week, something as simple as, maybe writing your own book or something to start with, or, your own ebook, and then you can kind of grow and sort of develop it from there, can't you?
That's it. I mean, there's an old saying that there's nothing under the sun. So basically, yeah, I think like you said about creating your own product, you do get sort of an expert authority attached to that. If you've got your own, if you start off doing affiliate marketing, which is like you say, you could start with someone else's product. So the whole headache of creating your own product is kind of taken away.
Mm.
But you've got to start either messing around with social media advertising and trying to build a list, or doing stuff like, which is also complicated. If you start to create your own product, at least then you're going to become a recognized authority and an expert in that field. I mean, you don't have to be the expert itself. You can become like a publishing company. And like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. So there is a multitude of stuff out there which you can basically write or create about. But even though there's a lot of skills that you probably have as a person, or knowledge that you have, which lots of people don't. And as you said, it doesn't have to be like £1,000 course. It's probably best if you start with something simple, just so you can learn the ropes. I mean, you can do something like a £7 sort of short report.
Yeah.
Something, or even just something like 27. Like you're just creating something. It can be like a checklist, or a small ebook report with a couple of checklists and 10 bullet points or 10 points, or how to be successful at this, or how to do that. Something simple, really.
So, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, like you said, you briefly mentioned just then that, people often get that kind of misconception, don't they, where they might sort of think that perhaps they're not the expert, or they don't really, sort of warrant creating the product. They haven't got that enough expertise in it all, and that's not really the case. I mean, like you sort of said, I don't think anything's particularly new. Most of the, if you think, if you know something that's shareable that other people would want to know, then you are as much right to create that as anyone else. And I think people sort of forget that people buy into other people, don't they? They don't necessarily buy. They're not necessarily buying the product. They're buying the solution to a problem, and also they're buying it from that particular person. Now, and that, I think, once you kind of get that into your head, it might sort of change people's perspectives a bit.
That's right. I mean, if you create your own product, then you become, like we said, basically the authority, the expert, and that is where a lot of the trust comes from. People buy into that. They kind of know then that you know something more than them. And there's another thing which is important, and that is a lot of people don't realize what they know, because they know it. It's second nature. And we generally think, well, yeah, it's simple. So why can't Matey Boy do it? Why doesn't Matey Boy know about it? But they don't. It's just
No.
that we do, and we don't realise how much expertise and skill we actually have because we just live it. We just do it. It's like
Yeah.
breathing.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people have this kind of, they feel a bit sort of like a bit of a fraud, or they feel a bit, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not really an expert. It's like, well, do you know how to do X, Y, and Z? I do.
Yeah.
And you look to somebody else. Do you know how to do X, Y, and Z? No. So then you know more than he does. So in his eyes, you are an expert.
Yeah.
And so basically, each and every one of us has expertise in a specific field, and we don't need to be the professor or the biggest person in the world. We don't need to be Einstein or anything like that.
Yeah.
But basically, if you know enough stuff about a topic more than other people, and what you know could help them out or take them to the next level, then basically you are in many ways the authority, the expert, and you have information which could quite easily go into your very first product.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I felt a bit like that when I remember when I mean, you mentioned then just about, not people not having that kind of, or people assuming that everyone knows about something when, because you can do it and, something that you find easy that you'd think, well, no one's going to want to know this. And I remember thinking like that. I mean, I'm going back years ago when I remember my first product I launched was about infographics. And all I was doing was basically just making infographics in PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Now, and in PowerPoint, I just assume, well, everyone's got PowerPoint. Everyone knows what PowerPoint is. And I'll just make these infographics up. They were nothing special. They weren't like, the glitz and glamour of, Photoshop or anything like that. And I thought, well, I don't know about this, but I'll just, you know what? There's a saying as well that goes around. If your first product, they say if your first product does well, then you've launched it too late. There's something along them lines. So you basically, you know what I mean? Just launch, just create stuff, just see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember launching this thing thinking, oh, it's not going to, but, it was almost like a learning curve. And I think I listed it on in the Warrior Forum of all places, which was like a bit of a sort of online marketing forum place.
Mm-hmm. Do people still use it?
I don't know what the Warrior Forum's doing these days, but I guess it's still about. I think it's got a bit more of a premium sort of membership side to it now. But anyway, so I launched this product and it sold something like 300 copies, and I remember thinking, wow, and it was all about that, taking away that thinking that no one, everyone's going to know this, so there's no point in making it. And I think like you say, you hit the nail on the head then. And I think people do have to sort of get that out of their head. Not everyone's going to know, and not only that, remember they're buying from you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that seems to plague lots of people. There's I can't think of the actual term they use, but basically, people feel that they're not, they're a fraud. They don't, well, I don't know anything special. Well, actually, you do. I mean, a great example of this was, I think, our first podcast, the first one of the series. We were talking about creating products. If you had an hour a day, what you could do and stuff like that. We were talking about writing, and I talked about using rev.com. And you got someone contacted you and said that was fantastic. They took a little nugget from that.
Yeah,
that was something that they didn't know yet. But yeah, to me, it's like, well, everyone I know sort of talks about it, so everyone knows. But
well, people in the writing circles, people in copywriting industry and like your industry, they're going to know about that, aren't they? But yeah, I was approached by someone saying, "Oh, great, yeah, listen to that. Had no idea about rev.com. Thanks for doing it. I'm going to start using that now." And like you say, all of a sudden, there's that little bit that you knew that someone else didn't.
Yeah, so we've become. I mean, I'm not saying that we're up there, but in that person's eyes, we're a bit more sort of expert and authority in that niche. Because I mean, obviously, I'm a writer and I do a lot of writing, and I've kind of picked up a lot of stuff, so I know more stuff than other people, and I have to remember that. But like I say, we were just talking about it as if it was just sort of It's what we know. It's like breathing.
I mean, no one's sort of judging. I think people get worried about judging people, and and I think I'm certainly nowhere near where I want to be in life, and I don't think, you know, me and you haven't achieved kind of what we want, and you still keep going and you still keep doing stuff, and that is part of the process, isn't it? That's part
Mm.
of doing it. I think you have to. I think we sort of get back to the title of this podcast, which is essentially just, you know, create, just make stuff, you know, create things that could solve a problem, could help somebody out, and you know, and it kind of leads to other things. It opens up other doors, and
And one of the biggest things it'll probably solve is the problems that you, the creator, are probably trying to solve yourself in your own life. I mean, like you say, if you don't create something, you've got nothing there that you can share, post, sell, promote.
yeah,
So basically, you do need to get started in creating something. So if you are a newbie and you're thinking, I want to get into the internet marketing, I want to get online, you want to do something, then don't get sort of bogged down looking at these big guys selling like your £999 course or whatever, your £1,000 course.
no,
You don't need to start there. I was only just reading the other day by someone, and they were saying that create your first course or product, focus on that, learn to market that. Before you don't want to do one, then start on a second one until you've known how to market the first one. Start at point A and just keep at it until you can move on to point B. And so that can be anything. And it can be quite easy these days. And like you say, you've got to start. So we've talked in the past on previous podcasts about Google Docs, Rev.com, and they're great for writing ebooks. You can do checklists. You can give away all kinds of sort of things. But there's other products that people can start quite easily, which is podcasts and YouTube videos. I mean, what we're doing now basically is nothing more than an informal chat and interview using a free software, which when we come to edit it, I'll be using software which cost me $15 for the whole year.
Yep.
It's going to go on to Anchor FM, which is free. It's going to go on to YouTube, which again is free. So, I mean, it's relatively simple to create content these days to actually get started.
Yeah. And we should point out as well that, you know, once we list it, we don't do anything else, and Anchor then send it out to, I think, 7 or 8 of the other podcast platforms. So it also goes on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and a load of other ones. You know, all we do is we shoot this once. We do a 10-minute edit at the end of it all. We put an intro in at the beginning, and then we upload it, and then that's it. It's already done. It's a kind of a little product in the making. It also can lead to other things like we've talked about. But yeah, I guess the point of it being is, you know, yeah, I mean, that's another good point. I mean, we sort of mentioned ebooks. That's one aspect. The other one is obviously video content, which, again, if anyone's got a mobile phone or a laptop with a webcam on it, then you have got your own kind of media channel already ready to go. You know, it just depends on how you want to utilize that. A lot of people don't have to worry about. I mean, people are scared. Sometimes they have a bit of fear about putting their face on camera and that, which is totally understandable. But then you don't even need to do that, do you? I mean, there's some amazing YouTube channels out there. I know you and I kind of always sharing stuff like, you know, wow, have you seen this? And, you know, of things which there's no actual person. You don't actually see the person. There's a couple, I don't want to sort of go into it too deep, but there's some really good kind of meditation ones, and, you know, that sort of calming side of things where people just sort of talk, and, you know, there's all this sort of aspect to it, which, and they got like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, you know, and they all started on video one, just like everyone else.
Perfection as well is the other thing. I think you mentioned fear. I think fear of not being perfect is another thing that holds people back. And as you said earlier about just basically getting started and create, one thing that I've always learned, I've always tried to, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but you've got to recognize and realize that at the end of the day, your first products are always going to be, by the time you're on your 10th product, are going to always look shabby and a bit crap.
Yeah,
you know, always, because you still learn it. And I always remember it's kind of a strange story, but it's kind of, I always try to sort of get it in my head because I used to work for a guy who was a perfectionist, and he was infuriating me half the time. It was if you imagine buying yourself like a villa in Spain and you're going to open it up as a hotel, but you decide you're not going to open it up until you've painted it white. So you think, fine, get the walls painted, but then you spend the next 6 months in B&Q deciding which shade of white to paint it. It's kind of like, no, just paint it white.
Get it done.
Yeah, just get it painted. Yeah, by all means, you don't want it to be shabby, peeling, and looking dirty. Paint it white, but don't spend the next 6 months trying to figure out which shade of white is the best white.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, yeah. If you're going to do a podcast or if you're going to do an audio book, I mean, that's another thing. You've got, like we talked about podcasts and videos.
Yeah.
Mobile phone, you can record audio, so you can. It doesn't have to be video, but just have a bit of a plan to work to, even if it's just a sheet of bullet points that help you get along, get started. Simple as that.
I can't remember if you have or not, but didn't you release a course which wasn't even finished? So you released the course, you sold the course, get a kind of general feedback from people, and then start adding videos. That's one way of doing it, isn't it? I can't remember if it was you. I remember speaking to someone about it. But.
That was one of the, yes, it was kind of me. It's happened a couple of times. I mean, the company I'm sort of working for at the moment, they did one just recently. They wrote a sales letter, sent it out, and tested the water to see if it'll work. And then when it did, I got this email saying, right, can you do this for us? And it was like, okay.
Right. So there you go.
But that's the same company that I released my viral code through a few years ago. I did a product, and I went to them and they were like, yeah, okay, seems interesting. Let's give it a go. So I said, I'll get all the videos sorted out for you. And they're like, no, don't bother. Just do the ebook and we'll see if there's any sales. If there is, then give it a go. And that is something that a lot of people in this industry tend to do.
Do it now. Yeah.
They often just test it. They write the sales letter, send it out, or get the advertising on the website. And if there's any buyers, rush around, get it done. But they'll have an idea of what they're going to do so they can knock it out fairly quickly.
Maybe like they've done, if it was like a 20 video course or something, then you could perhaps just shoot the first 3 or 4. Yeah. Then you can actually start selling it. And then you can just, finish the rest off and add the rest of the content. And again, we should talk about, people don't know, where do I start with things like, courses and things like that. People forget that, YouTube, you can list everything on YouTube and it doesn't have to be public. So it can be listed on YouTube. You can list it just as a private listing. So it's not available on search. However, it's almost like your own free hosting, right, of your YouTube, of your videos. And then you can just embed the videos on your website. And then you just sell the product through your website. It's absolutely fine doing that.
I do it all the time. I do it all the time because basically, like you say, we know how to stick video on a website. We know how to upload it to the server. We know how to do all that stuff. But with YouTube, they do it for free and they give you the option to unlist it. And so basically you record your video, you just throw it onto YouTube because it's easy as, and just unlist it and it's there. And the good thing about that is that you can actually make it public in the future if you wish to, but you can embed it on your website easy. And I just forgot what I was going to say there. I'm completely out of my mind there.
I know what you want to be. You can. So what you're talking about, I think you can embed the video, can't you?
Yeah.
And then basically you can just sell it through your website, but you could almost put like a membership page on there.
Yeah.
So that rather than, it's not completely open to everyone. So that obviously there is like a checkout, so like a payment cart system, and you can get that. You can do that as a PayPal button, which again is totally free. So the whole thing really, you can make a course essentially completely for free. I mean, there are platforms now for courses. I've just started dabbling around in one, and they are essentially free for a kind of limited version. But then there's obviously a premium on top of that. If you wanted to take it to the next level, start recruiting affiliates, things like that, then you're obviously going to incur some fees. But I think, sort of summary was basically, people shouldn't be put off by not being the expert or what they think if they are not the expert. People definitely shouldn't be put off by that. And then, start small and grow from there. Start with an ebook. If that works, then just make maybe a sort of 3 or 4 part video series or something like that. Again, you've got YouTube channels, podcasts, audiobooks. Yeah, I met a guy. I got an email the other day from somebody, and it was a product, and essentially I thought, well, it was good enough to be a product, and basically all he had done was he had gone around and sort of discovered like a whole load of Pinterest group boards. Now, for people that use Pinterest, it's like a visual um, sort of. It's not a social. It's a search engine essentially, but for images. And one of the techniques you can use is to join other people's boards. So if you've got hardly any followers yourself, you can join other people's boards, and then you can kind of tap into their sort of followers. And he had basically just created a massive list of these group boards, which were kind of open for contributors, and just packaged that up. So all that is, I mean, they're not his, so he hasn't done any work. They're not his boards.
Mm-hmm.
All that required was a bit of time and a bit of research, right, which anyone can do.
Yeah.
And they just packaged it up together. It's a 1 or 2 page PDF file, okay, which you could just host on your website. And I think he was selling it for something like $17. And there you go. And that is actually of use to a lot of people.
Well, you're paying basically for him to do the research to save you the hassle.
Essentially, yeah, is that cool?
No,
Yeah, you could go out and get all that information for free yourself.
Yeah,
like you say, he's just packaged it up and made it convenient.
I mean, with the technology that we have today, I mean, it's just like I said with YouTube, it's free. We've got all the social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can build Facebook pages, you can build accounts, you can share stuff with them. So you're not short of traffic. I'm not saying it's going to be straight away, that's going to be easy. But you have the traffic, but the information, you can create all kinds of products easily with the tools that we have. I mean, 10 years ago, it could probably cost us a fortune. And I remember I used to work with Camtasia. Yeah, I used to work with Camtasia, which was, I think it was about 200, 300 quid at the time. This was a few years ago. But the software that we're doing this now for free with Zoom. The software that I use is $15. The one that you use is about $30 for the year for the editing, and it's all basically sorted using that. And so you've got WordPress. You don't even have to have your own hosting, even though hosting can be something that's like £200 for nearly 2 years, which is in many ways like having a shop on the high street paying rent. You would never get a place for £200 a year for 2 years. Well, you could even go to WordPress.com. I don't even know if Google, do they still do Blogger? But
oh God, yeah, I remember that. I'm not sure. Possibly, I don't know. I really wouldn't know. But yeah, they're like free sort of blogging platforms, aren't they? You get a free site with Wix and all them now. They're all doing it, aren't they? As long as you're prepared to put up with a bit of advertising and all that gumph. But yeah, essentially, it's not dear, is it, to set your own one up? But yeah.
So you could actually get yourself, I don't know necessarily how they work because we've always been self-hosted, using plugins to create membership sites. But membership sites, I mean, going back to sort of products, you can use things like Patreon and create a subscription monthly newsletter.
Yeah.
So again,
going back to people that don't know, what's Patreon?
Right. Patreon, depending on how you call it. There's quite a few others. But Patreon is one of the biggest. I think it's American. It's kind of like a membership software. It's like Facebook with a membership side to it, basically. Because in the old days, membership, continuous monthly recurring income subscription models are big money, and people, a lot of people aspire to have them. Yeah. In the old days, you'd have to build a website, you'd have to pay probably a fortune for the techies, and then you got the plugins, and you've got to be quite technically advanced. Someone's come along and said, basically, I tell you what, we'll do a Facebook style platform, call it Patreon, and we'll set it up so that basically you can then now put your content on there, easy as it is, like posting on Facebook. You can do video, audio, PDFs, articles. You can share whatever you want on there. But then you set it up in specific tiers, so people have to pay to see your content. And the great thing about Patreon is that you can set it up as many tiers as you want. You can do like a free version. You can do a $5 a month version for whatever, for several photos. And then you can go up to like $100 a month. not that
for the
many.
premium exclusive stuff, because I see it now. I see this model quite sort of evolving a bit now. You see
Yeah,
like YouTube channels, which is obviously all free content, and then they'll say, well, join our Patreon page, of which might be like you say, a small fee, like $5 a month or something, and they'll share just exclusive stuff to that.
yeah,
And like you say, if you get like 200 or 300 subscribers to that, all paying $5 a month, you've got yourself a nice little product. But then you obviously have to just make stuff just for them.
yeah.
Perhaps if you're doing like, I don't know, web design or coding or something like that, then you share, only some, exclusive content with just the Patreon subscribers, and then all your kind of free stuff goes on YouTube. So yeah.
I'll tell you a great Patreon page. There's quite a few big winners on there. I'll tell you now. There's one which is a podcast, so it's not too dissimilar from this. I mean, I think it's about 4 blokes. It might be filmed in a studio, a bit more professional, and it's called Trap House. Originally, I thought it was music, and then I found out it was actually a political, a comedy political podcast where they were just basically talking about the politics happening in America. And I looked at their figures, how many people they had as Patreons, and they must have been clearing about $60,000 a month
Yeah,
just from
amazing.
this Patreon. But I think they had a following. They started up, they had a website, and they had YouTube, because there's a lot of YouTubers, as you said, use it because
Yeah,
they used to generate money from Google AdSense on their adverts, which is another way of generating money. Free platform, become a YouTube partner, you can generate money.
yeah,
But a lot of people these days are using ad blockers. So a lot of the YouTubers started to lose their income, or it dropped quite a bit.
yeah.
And so they set up these Patreon pages. And if you're a true fan, if you enjoy watching
You'll
their
pay,
content,
okay. Yeah,
you
exactly.
will chip in and help pay to keep them doing what they're doing.
And
Especially
the
if it's
idea,
really,
like you say, keep it low, keep it at sort of, even if it's just a couple of dollars a month, if you soon have, it soon
yeah,
mounts up, doesn't it? If you've got several hundred or whatever. Okay, so I think we're getting close to probably wrapping up time. But yeah,
yeah,
so my final thought would literally just be, let's just do it. Just take that first step. First step's always the hardest, which we've talked about loads of times. But yeah, if it's anything, if you're going to think about, like, if it's an ebook, if it's a course, if it's if you want to start your own YouTube channel or a podcast or whatever, just do that first one, that first paragraph in the book, that first 10-minute video, or that first kind of outline of the course. So once you've done that, then everything else just clicks into place. But yeah, anything to add?
yeah. For me, going back to what we talked about, the expertise and
Yeah,
you know, you know more than you think you know. You know more than a lot of other people. It could be to do with writing. It could be to do with traffic generation. It could be cooking. It could be knitting. It could be drawing. There is lots of things that we're connected to the new economy. There's how many people speak English are connected to the internet? I mean, there's about 500 million in the 5 main speaking English nations. That's a lot of people. And so everyone's got access. And so if you've got an expertise, you don't need a huge amount of people. So, I mean, and you've got the tools there, you've got YouTube, Patreon, you've got all these free things. So you probably know more than you realize. And there's probably
yeah,
people out there. In fact, I know there's people out there who want to learn what you know.
definitely.
And so, like you said, get your ebook started, do something, get something put together, start working on whether. The other thing as well is probably try and stick with the one thing if you're just beginning. If you're going to do a YouTube channel, make the videos, then focus on an ebook once you've kind of grown it. Or if you're going to do an ebook, stick with that. Don't try and do too many things at once.
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I mean, probably a nice little link to the. I can't remember what episode it was, but the episode where we talked about, just 1 hour a day. Just focus 1 hour a day, and I think you'll be amazed at what you could achieve if you just did a whole
Yeah,
solid month. But
I think that was episode 1, but yeah, definitely worth listening
yeah,
to.
I'll link that in. Okay, well, thanks very much for listening. My
No
name's
problems.
John Banks. I'm from sideincommand.com, and I'm being with.
Andy Lehman, I am the owner of freedomskillsacademy.com.
Okay, so thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Okay, cheers, bye-bye.